clearly the biggest priorities that were not just touched upon, but emphasized at the two sessions were stabilizing employment and consumer spending. And let's just say, both of those themes are directly related to the COVID comeback. Employment's back, spending's back. We looked a couple quarters ago at perhaps pent-up demand that led to excessive spending, which would make it difficult to sort of annualize and create a trend from that. But I think it's been stable. So let's look at a couple of areas that, are the object of a lot of consumer spending by Chinese. So one would be travel, not just domestically, but as importantly, internationally. The Chinese have distinguished themselves as prolific travelers. The second area, one of China's biggest exports, is related to education. So sending students abroad and everything that's attached to it, that virtually went into lockdown. Interestingly enough, an area that I'm involved in, which is the capital markets, that has continued unabated. So another huge export of China are initial public offerings and listing companies on stock exchanges. And they most certainly continued, with great fervor and very good success. 6% is a huge number. That's a big headline number. Is it achievable? I'm going to say the domestic portion, yes, but China needs the cooperation of the rest of the world to buy things and open markets and allow exports and not impede them in the case of some countries with, tariffs and trade barriers and things like that. I think the portion that's attributable to exports isn't so controllable by China. So there could be an adjustment coming there if the world doesn't come out of COVID like China has. I think there's two takeaways from how other companies are viewing China's COVID comeback. There's a lot of attention on China's defeat of COVID that the rest of the world is trying to glean best practices and really hints of silver linings to the clouds that are kind of around the rest of the world. The second one has to do with, China being a huge market for so many other companies and countries in the rest of the world. But you take away China and, those companies are in, a challenged condition. But I think because of the importance of China to virtually every country and company, you are seeing great interest in determining whether and when China is back and how can that help those companies participate in that resurgence. So coming out of the two sessions, we had a lot of objective, fact-based policy pronouncements and strategic directions for China that are borne out in what's actually been occurring during the COVID comeback. The part that's still open for discussion and subject to interpretation is geopolitically. So there have been pronouncements from the US, Europe, of course, China. And so I think that's the X factor that kind of rides around all of the objective information that says you should be back in China. There's still this slight hesitation on, is that going to be borne out in policy? And I think that's where we get into, things being said and maybe not done, or things being said and interpreted in a way where they're implemented differently. And that's where, some of the art comes into this beyond the science of the statistics.